Good afternoon, Professor and classmates. Today I will be touching upon the topic of the anatomy and physiology of the cardiovascular system and how blood flows. The human body consists of many different structures, which are organs, and they all work together to basically provide us with life. One of the main circulatory systems of the body is the cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system consists of three main structures: the heart, blood vessels, and blood. So my specific goal is to give you a basic understanding of how these structures work together to supply blood to the body. So let's start with the heart. The heart is a muscular organ that acts as a pump. It is in the thoracic cavity and it is enclosed and protected by a pericardial sac. The heart consists of four chambers and four valves. These chambers and valves control the flow of blood inside the heart. So we have here the two upper chambers and the two lower chambers, and these are the valves. So we have here the right atrium, the left atrium, the right ventricle, and the left ventricle. Then this is the tricuspid valve, the pulmonary valve, the aortic valve, and the mitral valve. These supply blood to two separate circuits. So we have here the pulmonary circuit, which are the lungs, and the systemic circuit, which is the body. So oxygen-poor blood is received by the lungs, and oxygen-rich blood is received by the body. A little bit later on, I will explain how blood flows from the heart to these circuits and back into the heart. Now I want to talk about the blood vessels. Blood vessels are channels that allow transportation of blood. There are three main types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries transport blood away from the heart to peripheral tissues. Veins are a low-pressure system that collect oxygen-poor blood away from the peripheral tissues and back into the heart. And capillaries allow the exchange of substances between the blood and these peripheral tissues. Blood is a fluid tissue that transports oxygen and nutrients to body tissues and collects waste products from these body tissues to bring it to the lungs and kidneys to be processed. Blood also maintains body temperature and blood pH, and body pH, and it also stabilizes fluid loss at injury sites and defense against pathogens and toxins. So now I can get back to how blood flows to these circuits and back into the heart. So we have here, let's start with the right ventricle. So poor oxygen blood is in the right ventricle, and it's enclosed by these two valves. So once the pressure builds up in the right ventricle, this pulmonary valve will open up and let the oxygen-poor blood run through the pulmonary arteries and into the lungs. Once the oxygen-poor blood is in the lungs, the capillary beds allow the gas exchange so blood can be oxygenated, and then it returns back into the heart by the pulmonary veins and into the left atrium. Once the pressure builds up, the oxygen-rich blood will open up the mitral valve. So it will let the blood go into the left ventricle. That valve will close, and once the pressure builds up in the left ventricle, it will open up the aortic valve. So the oxygen-rich blood will leave the left ventricle and go out into the aorta, which is the main artery of the heart, and it'll flow into the systemic circuit. The capillary beds of the systemic circuit will allow gas exchange to occur, So the blood will give off the oxygen to the body, and that blood will pick up the carbon dioxide and return it back into the heart. So the oxygen poor blood collected from the systemic circuit will return to the heart through the vena cavas, the inferior and superior vena cava, into the right atrium. That is the basic blood flow between the heart and the two circuits.